Have you ever stood in a room full of people and felt the weight of your own silence drown out the noise? Have you ever felt more powerful saying nothing than speaking? Because what if I told you that silence is not weakness nor absence, but power, a weapon, a spiritual shield, a mark of a man who truly understands himself and the world around him? Welcome back to the channel, where we go deeper than the surface and bring to light the forgotten truths of masculinity, discipline, and self-mastery. If you're the kind of man who refuses to be ruled by noise, distraction, and chaos, then this is your tribe. Hit that subscribe button, tap the bell icon, and join a brotherhood that's waking up to the strength of what's been lost in modern men. Now let's talk about something the world no longer understands. Silence. Not just any silence. Not awkward silence. Not passive silence. We're talking about stoic silence. Sacred silence. The kind of silence that builds kings and terrifies the weak. In the year 180 AD, the most powerful man in the world sat in a tent at the edge of the empire. His name was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. Outside, war drums echoed in the cold barbarian forests. Inside, he held a wax tablet, writing not about conquest or politics, but about self-discipline, restraint, and silence. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." Then he closed his eyes. And he listened, not to the chaos outside, but to something deeper, the silence within. What Marcus knew, what few understand today, is that silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the presence of focus. It's the sharpening of the mind. It's the taming of the emotions. And above all, it's the invisible force that separates a reactive boy from a stoic man. Because a man who has mastered silence has mastered himself. In today's world, noise is everywhere. Algorithms scream for your attention. Notifications yank your mind like chains. Everyone's talking, everyone's arguing, everyone's desperate to be heard, but not you. You're watching this because you feel something that most men have forgotten. Maybe you've sat in a crowded room and watched others explode in anger while you remained still. Maybe you've bitten your tongue when it would have been easier to lash out. Maybe you felt that quiet fire in your chest when someone disrespected you, and you chose silence instead of spectacle. That moment? That's where your power lives, because silence is not avoidance, it's control. Silence is the gate between instinct and intention. It's where your soul speaks without saying a word. And that silence? It's holy. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think monks retreat into silence for years? Why did ancient warriors meditate for hours in stillness before battle? Why do the most disciplined men in history, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Miyamoto Musashi, write more about silence than they ever do about shouting? Because silence isn't a void, it's a forge. The man who chooses silence is the man who is listening, not just to the world, but to himself. And the truth is, most men today are terrified of that silence, because they don't like what they hear in it. They don't like the unfiltered voice of their own conscience. They don't want to face the gaps in their discipline. They don't want to hear the uncomfortable questions echoing in their mind at 3 a.m. But the stoic man, he embraces it. Imagine a battlefield. On one side, a man is yelling threats, beating his chest, desperate to dominate the room. On the other, a man stands in total calm, unmoved, eyes focused, breathing slow, silent. Who's in control? You know the answer. The silent man is not afraid, because silence is rooted in stillness, and stillness is the foundation of strength. In 1645, the legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi wrote the Book of Five Rings, a text still studied by warriors, entrepreneurs, and military leaders. Musashi was undefeated in over 60 duels, but he wrote almost nothing about the sword. Instead, he wrote about silence, observation, timing, patience, because he knew the loudest man dies first. The most reactive man is always the first to fall, but the man who waits, who watches, who strikes only when it's time, that man survives. That man wins. Let's go even deeper. From a psychological standpoint, silence is one of the most powerful communication tools in the world. It creates discomfort, it demands attention, and it signals authority. In negotiation, the man who speaks less always holds the advantage. In conflict, the man who doesn't flinch holds the power. In relationships, the man who doesn't rush to explain himself or overtalk gains respect without asking for it. Women notice this. Employers notice this. Enemies fear this, because silence is tension, and tension is influence. You see, when you speak too much, you reveal your strategy, your emotion, your insecurity. But when you speak less, you become a mystery. And every man who is a mystery becomes magnetic. You're not watching this because you want to fit in with the world. You're watching this because you've felt the chaos. You've seen how noise makes men weak, distracted, uncentered. But something in you is rebelling against that. You're starting to realize that strength doesn't come from how loud your voice is. It comes from how silent your spirit can be when the world tries to break you, when everyone else reacts. You pause when others fight. You observe when chaos erupts. You breathe. This is not passivity. This is power under pressure. And if you can learn to cultivate that silence inside you, you become untouchable. The truth is, most men don't need more motivation. They need more stillness. They don't need louder affirmations. They need quiet reflection. They don't need another podcast screaming grind harder. They need to sit with themselves in silence and ask, what am I running from? What am I avoiding? Who am I becoming? Because the modern world is afraid of silent men. You know why? Because silent men think. They don't just absorb what they're told. They don't chase trends. They don't need validation from strangers. They walk into a room and change its temperature by presence alone, not volume. That's rare now. That's dangerous now. And that's exactly why you need to reclaim it. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't rush to defend your ego. Just pause. The next time you're tempted to overshare, to over-explain, to impress, just go still. The next time the noise gets loud, on your phone, in your mind, in your life, turn it off. Step into the silence. Lean into it. It is uncomfortable at first, but inside that silence is your edge. A calm man is not weak. A calm man is deadly, because he has nothing to prove and nothing to fear. When Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world, he didn't build his legacy through arrogance, noise, or dominance. He built it through discipline, through thought, through silence. And that silence became a mirror through which he built his soul. Your silence can do the same. So now you're probably asking yourself, how do I practice this kind of silence? Not the lazy silence of someone who's checked out of life, but the active, intentional silence of a man who sees everything, but chooses not to react to anything until it's time. It starts by understanding that silence is not something you wait for. It's something you create. You carve it out of your life. You make space for it, like a warrior clearing his path through the jungle. You shut the door, turn off the phone, kill the background noise. Not to escape, but to hear the sound of your own soul scraping against the world's expectations. Start with 10 minutes a day. Sit, breathe, no distractions. Don't run from the discomfort that rises. Let it speak. What you hear in those moments is your truth. It will whisper the fears you avoid, the regrets you bury, and the direction you know you need to go. And then comes the real test. Silence in motion. Can you hold it in a storm? Can you walk into conflict, into criticism, into emotional heat, and still carry that stillness like armor? The warrior doesn't just train on the mountaintop. He trains in the middle of battle. That's where the silence becomes holy. When everything in your life is pulling at you, testing you, demanding a reaction, and you choose stillness, that's the silence of a king. We've been lied to. We've been told that manhood means making noise, being brash, dominating conversations, proving ourselves constantly. But those are the habits of insecure boys, not sovereign men. True masculinity doesn't need a stage. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't crave validation. It stands alone if it must. It chooses stillness when others choose chaos. It speaks only when words carry weight. Because the man who guards his tongue guards his soul. The man who lives in silence lives in awareness. And awareness is where real power begins. Let me take you to a moment in the life of Viktor Frankl, an Austrian neurologist, Holocaust survivor, and author of Man's Search for Meaning. When he was imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, surrounded by death and cruelty, he discovered something extraordinary. Even in the darkest conditions, a man could find meaning, could preserve a sense of self, could choose his response. Frankl wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That choice is born in silence. When everything screams for you to collapse, rage, break down, and lash out, and you choose stillness, you become untouchable. That is sacred. That is spiritual. That is masculine." Now pause for a second. Think about the men you admire most, the legends, the icons, the mentors. Were they loud, or were they still? Think about Bruce Lee, his movements precise, his words few. Think about Jocko Willink, his presence so intense he barely needs to speak. Think about your own father or grandfather, perhaps. A man of few words, but each one laced with wisdom. These men knew something the modern world forgets. A man's strength isn't measured by how much he says. It's measured by how much he can hold in silence. Let's get brutally honest. If you're constantly reacting, explaining, defending, justifying, you're leaking power. Every time you let anger push words out of your mouth before you're ready, you give away control. Every time you feel the need to be heard just to be heard, you shrink your value. But when you wait, when you watch, when you let others empty themselves while you stay grounded, then you strike like a man who's waited for the right moment, not just any moment. That's what stoic men do. They move when it's time. They speak when it matters. And that silence before the move, that's where legends are born. So the next time someone calls you too quiet, smile. Let them talk. The next time your woman tries to provoke a reaction, stay calm. Let her wonder. The next time life throws a storm in your face, breathe. Let the storm pass. You're the mountain. That's the difference between noise and presence, between reaction and strategy, between boys and men. And here's the irony. In silence, you become louder than you ever could be with words. Your energy will speak. Your discipline will echo. Your control will roar. And the world will feel it, even if you never say a thing. So if you've made it this far into the video, it's because you're not like everyone else. You're not looking for easy answers. You're looking for inner fire. And I want to leave you with this. The world will try to drag you into its noise. But the man who masters silence, he becomes a world of his own. He becomes the calm in the storm. He becomes the still eye of the hurricane. And in that stillness, he becomes unbreakable. So protect your silence, build it, train in it. Let it guide your actions, your words, your purpose. Because silence is not the absence of power, it is the sound of power. Waiting. If this message hit home for you, drop a comment below with just one word. Still. Let the world know you're not just listening, you're living this. And if you know a man who needs to hear this, send it to him. Wake him up, because the world needs more men of stillness, of strength, of silent fire. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. This is just the beginning. More is coming. Until next time, stay sharp, stay silent, stay dangerous.